I got out of prison. I was 40 years old. I was broke again. I was homeless again, but I was off parole for the first time in like a decade. But I really felt the calling to be of service. But I also knew that I couldn't really serve others until I had my own stuff figured out.
Hello and welcome to the Go Encourage podcast, where I talk to real people about real life, trying to gain some insights from their experiences building courage. Before we get started, just want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It really helps the channel grow and it helps me to bring more guests onto the podcast. You can also do the same on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Amazon with a like and a follow. And if you're looking for links to my social media channels, you can find them at www.goencourage.com. You can also grab a copy of the Courage Journal, which is a 31-day prompted journal designed to help you build courage in your life. All right. With all that said, let's bring on my next guest and let's see where the conversation goes. Hello, and in the studio today, I'm joined by Gabe Cohen, who is a peer recovery expert, a coach, and an author. Hey, Gabe, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for this opportunity. It's great to see you, Rex.
So good to have you on. I know we connected via Instagram. You reached out. We had a little chat, and got to know each other a little bit. So I'm really excited that you've agreed to come on.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. So it's a bit of a tradition on this podcast to ask my guest if they know what their name means. Do you know what your name means?
Yeah, I believe Gabe is short for Gabriel. And I believe Gabriel means a messenger of God. That's how I understand it. So I haven't always, and Gabriel was an angel. I haven't always been an angel. But I'm hoping I'm becoming more angelic-like in my older age.
Moving in that direction. Yeah,
I hope so.
Oh, excellent. I had a little look up as well, and it comes from Hebrew origin, and it also means God is my strength, which I thought was a really cool unpacking of your name as well.
Wow. Yeah. I haven't heard that. I didn't Google search it, so that's empowering, and God is my strength. So thank you. Thanks for that gift today. Appreciate it.
No worries. I'll be excited to unpack some of that a little bit later. If God is your strength, you're saying there.
Yeah.
But before we get into some deep stuff, and I'm able to draw some insights from your amazing experiences, I thought we could have a little bit of fun. I'll ask you a few fun questions just to get to know you a little bit. For people who are tuning in, they know who they're listening to. So if you're up for it, here's a few fun questions to throw your way. Sure.
I'm up for it.
All right. Okay. So question number one, food unites us. So it's the universal language of everyone. So what is your favorite food, Gabe?
Yeah. I'm a steak guy. Nice. I can pick up a couple top sirloin steaks throughout the week to complement my protein intake, Nice. And but I love it. And I get some coconut amino sauce on it. And nice. I love a good steak.
Steak man, yeah. Like it. Yes, it is also my favorite food as well.
Is it?
So
Okay.
It'd be really cool to see what the steaks are like out in the US, because I've heard some great things compared to what we get here in the UK and the portion sizes, etc. So
well, come on over. My door's open for you.
Amazing. I'll come over. We'll have some steaks.
It'll
be great.
You got it.
Just want to say, if you're vegetarian or you're vegan and you're listening to this episode, hey, stay with us, okay? Don't switch off just now. There's other things we're going to talk about. All right. Okay.
Don't get me wrong. Vegetables are great and they're important.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Here's a fun question. What's your favorite mode of transportation? How do you like to travel, Gabe?
Oh, wow. I like driving. I don't like driving in city traffic. I live in a rural mountain community in Colorado in the United States. And for the work that I do, I travel throughout my state. and I didn't always like to drive because I didn't always have uh, decent vehicles, so it wasn't the most comfortable drive. But I've been very blessed as of late, and with the work that we do, and so uh, I'm not really a mechanic. I'm not mechanically inclined, but I like nice vehicles. And so the last couple of years, I've gotten a couple different vehicles. Had one for a year, traded it in, and so I don't mind driving a couple hundred miles as long as I'm driving comfortably. And so yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
That's cool. Are you a cat or a dog person, or neither?
I grew up as I was a cat person. My wife is allergic to cats, and that was a little disheartening when we first got together. So I've grown into a dog person. So we've got 2 dogs right now. Yeah.
Okay, and the empowering message there is you can transition if you find yourself from one to the other.
Change is possible, for sure.
Change is possible. I love that. Are you a dress up or a dress down sort of person?
I like to look sharp when it's appropriate, but I am more of I'm a sweatpants t-shirt kind of guy. I'm in the office right now with sweatpants on. I just throw a decent top on for the online stuff. But I like to be comfortable, man.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like it, right? And be honest now, are you known for being an early person or a late person, somewhere in between?
Well, I think I know what you're asking. I wake up early.
Okay.
But as far as being on time for appointments is what I think you're asking.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and my family can attest to this, I have a bad habit of being late. I usually, oh man, you're getting me to reveal some deep stuff here already. Okay. I tend to try to do too much in too little time. And I'm confident I can get it all done. And unfortunately, I'm usually running late to appointments because of that reason, to be honest with you.
All right. Well, we've had 2 appointments and you've been on time for both of them. So I'm just saying, it's not been my experience of you.
Yeah, well, you're important,
I'll take that. Yeah. I'll take that. And Gabe, what's a special place for you? Is there a special place, a location somewhere in the world that's special to you?
Wow. To be transparent, I really enjoy just being home with my family. We like to travel and see new places, but I'm always looking forward to coming back home, and I stay super busy with my business. Mm-hmm. So we have, I have a small family. It's me and my wife, and we have a son together and 2 dogs, and we have a small house, and I just look forward to going home every night, and I like spending weekends when I can at home with my family, just relaxing.
Yeah, love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then in terms of, I don't know if you watch a lot of TV or movies and stuff, but what's the last thing you watched? Was it a hit or a miss?
Oh, wow. What were we? This might be a little embarrassing, but tell it. We were bored last night, and we were searching YouTube on our TV and watching David Spade, who's a comedian, and David Spade clips and older Saturday Night Live clips. Right. We just wanted some comedy before bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, there's nothing embarrassing about that. Yeah, it's great.
Well, it's not very profound, but
I think with all the seriousness in the world, stand-up comedians have, really done a lot in terms of healing being laughter being part of the healing process as well. So
absolutely. I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more, but with, I'm in I'm in the recovery business,
Hmm.
not just from drugs and alcohol, but I work with people that are incarcerated, people that are experience homelessness, addiction, and so the day in and day out grind of being of service to others, and then I'm also I'm the executive director, so there's behind the scenes business as well, and so. Um, yeah, just to come home and put on something silly and something where I don't have to do too much thinking that's
Mm,
entertaining is it's a gift. It's a pleasure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And then, is there a TV show or a book or a movie that had a profound impact on your life? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I like that question. Uh, so there's a book. It's and I haven't read it in a while. This is making me want to go back and reread it. I have read it a couple of times. It's called My Name is Asher Lev, and it was
Okay.
written by, uh, I believe he was a rabbi. I think his name was Chaim Potok. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, uh, but it's a book. It's a book I discovered um, when I was in prison,
Hmm.
um, which I'm sure we'll talk about maybe at some point.
We
Uh,
will.
and it really it's it made me weep. It made me cry. It really touched my heart, and you know, it was very profound to me. I don't know how much you want me to talk about this. Um,
I mean, go for it. We're here. We're on
well,
topic. So it's called My Name is Asher Lev. Is
Asher
that right?
Lev, yeah, and it's so I'll give you a little background.
Mm.
I was born into I'm from a Jewish family,
Hmm.
a Reform Judaism. We weren't very religious. We observed a couple different Jewish holidays, but we didn't belong to a synagogue or anything like that. Um, but being I'm a person in recovery, and for years, trying to get my family and my parents to understand what addiction is and why I made the poor decisions that I made, and I spent a lot of time and a lot of energy in my early active addiction days feeling shamed, feeling guilty, trying to explain myself and get everyone else to understand. And I didn't quite understand either what was going on with me, but there was certainly the stigma, and I was othered and kind of separated, if you will, and ostracized from my family because of my
Hmm.
addiction and my mental health issues. Um, the book Asher Lev is about a little Hasidic, Orthodox Jewish boy, um, and I believe his dad's a rabbi, and
Hmm.
the boy is obsessed with drawing. He can't stop drawing, and he's getting in trouble in school, and um, the teachers are like, "What's wrong with this kid?" He's in his own world, but he's very talented and gifted, and um, it's just a story of a little boy that can't help do what he does, and
Mm.
about his family not understanding it, and he becomes a famous artist, and there's a very significant ending. I won't give it away, but it was really profound to me, and um, yeah, it really touched my heart, and it's actually one of my sons is named Asher, and that's actually what's tattooed on my neck here in
Oh,
Hebrew.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, so when I asked you if there was something that had a profound influence on your life, this is huge.
yeah, we went to I read that year, probably probably close to 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And then when I met my current wife, we've been together 13 years, and when you know, we got pregnant with Asher, and took our first trip to New York. where I grew up, they had an off-Broadway play based on the book. My Name is Asher Lev, and
Oh, wow.
I took my wife to see it, and just let her know that this is why I wanted to name my son Asher. And Asher actually in Hebrew means happy heart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty cool. So
yeah, I love that. And if you're listening to this, I've made a made a note of what the book is, and you can find a link in the description below as well. It's just if people want to check it out, and I think I will. I'll definitely add it to my list of upcoming reading books. So thanks for sharing that, Gabe.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you. Actually, I don't know if you're really. I'm going to ask you anyway.
Sure.
Do you know your star sign, Gabe? Are you into star signs? Are you?
I don't. I mean, do you mean like am I a Libra or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know star sign specific, but yeah. Sorry, I can't.
You're a Libra. Okay.
Yeah. I fall into that.
Hopefully, I think there's something about balance there or something like that.
Yeah, the scales, right?
The scales. Yeah, that's it. Okay.
But I don't know too much about it. I have a friend, she was a client that's, she's into all that. It's actually, what she does. That's her business and stuff. But we've never actually had that conversation.
Fair enough. And then last two questions before I really want to get to know you more is because I think we've already got some glimpses of what's been going on in your life there.
Yeah.
What made you decide to come on to the Go Encourage podcast today? What was it?
I like your theme, talking about courage and the diversity of the different guests that you've had on. I think it's important to, get the word out to the public about different people's perspectives on how they've overcome challenges. And I would like an opportunity. I'm really trying to get my story out there and really the theme of being of service in your community. If you have some type of recovery story, and it could be recovery from anything. I mean, anything. It could be, choosing bad partners in relationships, right? I mean, if you have any type of experience where you were once here and now you're here doing more positive things and you've learned lessons, I think it's important to share those lessons and be vulnerable and be authentic and because I think it lends strength to people when they see that.
Yeah.
And I this world and what's on social media, there's a lot of good stuff if you seek it. But there's so much garbage out there. There's so much trash and getting bombarded with stuff. And so if I could just be part of a positive community, and that's really kind of a quest that I'm on right now, just looking for other like-minded people and looking for opportunities to share the good work that we've created and that we're doing in our small community, and to encourage people to dream big and be of service and go after it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I really, really love that. I can align to that as well. And I think people who have been through tough scenarios, tough situations where they want to evolve and grow and push through, tend to be, at least in my experience, some of the most helpful, humble-hearted people that you can get, because they've seen the horrors of life, so that when good things come, there's a whole bunch of gratitude and I guess love for one another to say, hey man, I went through this thing. I don't know if it's going to help you, but this is where I got to with it, and this is how I got through it. Maybe that could be of some service to you, and maybe not, but yeah, if nothing else, there's some encouragement there.
Yeah, I love that the sentiment that you just shared. I mean, it's very much my pitch, if you will, often of I can share my lived experience. I can share with you what I've been through, what worked for me. But my job as a recovery coach, and I'm also a chaplain in a prison. My job is, I could share my experience, but really to walk alongside a person and look at them as a resource. I mean, you are your best resource. You know yourself, and so my job is really to help you explore different avenues, different resources, and allow you to find your path. Not try to clone you or shove my path down your throat, so to speak. But I could say, hey, this is where I was. These are different things that I tried. This is what worked for me. I don't know if that will work for you, but I'm here to come alongside you and help you explore things if you're willing to do the work. And that's the biggest thing is I can't make anybody want change, right? We can't make anybody want something different. A lot of people want something different. It's I think the real challenge, and I think this will tie into our courage conversation, is finding the motivation and the will to put the work in necessary to change, because it's not always very easy, and it's scary.
It is scary. I think when we were setting up and we were sort of talking off camera, we were talking about the gym a little bit.
Yeah.
And one of the things you said there was, 80% of it is just showing up. It's just actually getting yourself to the gym. And I think if we use that principle in the same way as what we're talking about here in terms of the mental space, it is just showing up, right? This is something I'm scared of. So instead of avoiding it and running the other way and drowning myself in an addiction, maybe I need to show up, and then the 20% of the work is like working through what comes out of that.
Yeah, no, well said. And you don't have to do it alone. Like showing up in itself can be scary, but if you can find the proper support system, and that's really like what we do, come alongside somebody and attend a meeting with them for the first time. Or I've even gone with a client to the dentist office. They had just growing up, and their teeth were all needed some work, and their parents, whether they didn't care or didn't have the money or whatever the situation was, and it was something that was scary to them. That this is a person like in their late 30s, right, to go to the dentist and even just get an evaluation of what it might take to get these things fixed. But to go with somebody and be like, look, I'm right here in the waiting room. You're gonna, it's gonna be okay. Go in there. You're gonna sit in the chair for half an hour, and I'll be right here when you get out. They told me that made a huge impact on them, just to know that I was willing to go with them. And that's not for me to try to be virtuous. I'm just trying to share an example with people of the power of offering support to somebody that's in need, and exploring different options for change.
It's such an interesting example because so just to give you a little bit of I work in a role in health and well-being, and it uses the international clubhouse model, which is helping people with maybe mental health challenges, maybe isolation challenges, trying to reconnect with the community and things like that. Anyway, part of that was one of the clients there, petrified of the dentist. So I took her to the dentist, which just happened to be just across from where we have our space from. And again, it was just a matter of going there to make an appointment, and her getting over that anxiety and all the triggering things that have come up for her. And you said you didn't share that to be overly virtuous or anything, but that for you wouldn't have been a huge deal to do, and just like for me it wasn't a huge deal to do. Like, we're literally just walking with them, right?
Yeah.
But for them it was a life-changing, game-changing, I should say, experience, because now they're in a place that they are so scared of going to and have been for 20 years or so, and now they're actually there and it isn't so bad, and so you're unlocking something really huge for them. And And I guess I'm trying to say that to say to anyone listening, sometimes support doesn't have to be that you're laying your life down on the line. You're just doing, 5-20 minutes worth of, just holding someone's hand, maybe not literally, figuratively, whatever, but like doing just this small thing or this small act of kindness, and you're helping someone rewire their brain chemistry, which is, well, maybe not brain chemistry. That's a bit, that's a bit dramatic, but the way that they're thinking about things.
No, absolutely. It's interesting that that you had a similar experience, right along those lines with the dentist.
With a dentist, exactly that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Gabe, I think we've kind of had a little bit of your life has kind of seeped into some of these questions. So let's just get straight to it. Like, can you share a little bit about your upbringing, where you grew up? Some of the things that maybe you could share from when you were a little boy to where you're at now.
Sure. Well, I'm in my 50s, so I will. There's a lot in there, but I'll give you the condensed version. I'll try to hit some bullet points. I grew up on Long Island, which is outside New York, about 45 minutes outside New York City, the United States, and middle class suburbia. I come from a Jewish family. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors, German, Polish, and Hungarian Jews. So there was some, I didn't know anything about what they call generational trauma. But I remember growing up, and there were certain things we could talk about in the house when my grandparents were around, and there were things that we weren't supposed to talk about because of the war, and and just trying to figure out some of that stuff when you're little, not quite understanding, seeing some of the horrific pictures of what took place growing up, and I was like one of two Jewish families in a predominantly I guess Catholic Protestant neighborhood. There was a little bit of anti-Semitism growing up, and so just trying to figure some of that stuff out as a kid. But what really impacted me and had a profound impact on my life was experience some sexual abuse as a child outside of my home. It was by a neighbor in our community, but not knowing what to do with that, and the feelings that I had, and being threatened at an early age. And I had some friends that were using marijuana and drinking at about 13 years old, and so I tried it. It made me feel different, which I liked. And so I was consistently smoking pot and drinking, at 13, 14 years old. Basically at 14, I was smoking pot every day before school, in school, after school. That's all we were doing. When I was 15, I tried cocaine for the first time. And then I really fell in love with that drug. That was my drug of choice, as they say, in the addiction recovery world. It made me feel euphoric. It made me feel powerful. The world didn't seem as scary when I was on cocaine. And then, of course, I met some cocaine dealers that were older guys, that had muscle and money and what I perceived as power. And so I started hanging out with these people, and at 15, I got arrested for the first time, actually for a shooting. It was two kids playing with a gun. Nobody got killed, but somebody did get shot. And so that just brought great shame to my parents. And then I was just full blown using cocaine, selling cocaine. I dropped out of high school. I moved out of the house when I was 17. But when I was 18, I went to my first rehab. I was started robbing people. It was guns, steroids came into the picture too. So there were steroids,
Okay.
cocaine, guns, violence. Um, so I talked to a school counselor. I was in way over my head. I went to my first rehab 6-week program. I told my parents what was going on. They knew what was going on, but had a down to earth conversation with them. So they
Right. And
supported
you were at
me
school.
in that
Sorry, Gabe.
respect. Yeah, my parents
Yeah.
were there was no drugs or alcohol in my family, and
Mm.
so they just didn't understand. They never experienced this, and my poor parents, right? I put them through so much. Um, Having said that, I was a kid still. Uh, got introduced to recovery and 12-step programs that year,
Mhm.
but came home and within like 2 weeks, I relapsed. I was using drugs again. They kicked me out of the house. I have an uncle that lives in Denver, Colorado, which is
Mhm.
about halfway across the Midwest, halfway across the United States from New York. And he said, get on a plane, pack a duffel bag. I'll send you a one-way ticket, but here's the house rules. He had a friend that was in Narcotics Anonymous, a 12-step program. He
Okay.
said, the day you get off the plane, you're going to go to a meeting with my friend. You're going to,
Mhm.
get a sponsor, work a recovery program. You need to stay sober. Um, I'll buy you a one-way ticket. And my uncle had a family. I had cousins that were younger than me. So he was very gracious to bring me into his home, but he made it
Yeah.
clear that if you relapse, if you use drugs again, you're getting kicked out. You're going to be kicked out of our house too. And I'm not buying you a ticket to go home. So
Mhm.
you got one shot. And so, I went out there and I stayed sober for 6 weeks. Went to a party with a girl. I think I was 19 by this time, and had a couple beers. Was trying to be social. Thought, okay, I'm not an alcoholic, right? I can drink some beers, although I knew better. Had some beers. Relapsed with drugs. Got kicked out of my
Mhm.
uncle's house, and so to make a long story short, it was the first time that I experienced real homelessness
Mhm.
in a city where I knew nobody. I mean, I was downtown Denver, like on the streets, and spent my first night in a homeless shelter and followed kind of, the homeless crowd to like where they fed breakfast at a different location, and was just trying to figure out, the different feeding spots, if you will, in the city. And
Mhm. Mhm.
but I was addicted to crack. And so I was robbing and stealing and selling drugs. And this started petty arrests for me, going in and out of the city jail, county jail. I was probably
Mhm.
arrested over, I know I was arrested over 25 times, in and out several years, back on homeless. I mean, I was on and off the streets for several years. And then uh, in 96, I got my first felony case in
Mhm.
Aspen, Colorado. I got possession of cocaine and got sentenced to 2 to 6 years in prison. And so
Wow.
from, basically, until 2011, I was in and out of the Colorado state prison system 7 different times.
Wow.
And so I'd go into prison. 4 of those times I was paroled out of prison, homeless. So
Mhm.
literally, given, a sheet of paper with, you have to go here to check in for parole. You got to go here for a UA. You go here to get food. I got no money, no car, no phone, no job. Um, and so, sometimes I tried. I tried several times to kind of get back on my feet, would get back on my feet, would think I could use drugs and control my drug use. And then I would lose
Mhm.
everything and be back in jail again. And that was like my
Okay.
cycle for over a
Wow.
decade.
I have to ask, Gabe,
Yeah.
and I know I appreciate like you are giving us bullet points, but my curiosity
Sure.
has to ask you that
Please.
if can you remember? There's a couple of questions actually. One of them is when your uncle gave you that opportunity to come out to him. Do you remember what you were feeling or what you were thinking with that opportunity, or was it a haze? Was it
Um,
was there did you think, hey man, this is my opportunity to do
yeah.
something with my life?
Yeah. It's interesting that you said it. And I feel a little blasphemous saying it, but I felt like this is a savior, right? Like he's given me, I mean, it was I kind of brush over it. I think because I've been diagnosed with PTSD and there's a lot of trauma there, but it was dangerous. I was in over my head and there were so I was scared for my life, and I was 19, 18, 19 years old. So it was like, I just felt like this relief, like, oh my God, there's hope. Like I can actually get up and leave this situation. But what I've learned, in recovery, as people do learn, excuse me, sometimes, they call it like trying to do the geographic thing, right? Where it's like,
Right.
if I could just get out of the city or just get away from these people, then I'll be okay. Because the area or these people are the problem.
Yeah, you're trying to fix the external.
Yeah.
As opposed to the internal.
I got to work on what's going on in here and up here, right?
Yeah. And again, please only share what you're comfortable with. But I'm thinking about a young boy who's been assaulted and then finds himself in a strange way comforted by these addictions that then take you down a dark path, from what you're saying, and then you've got this opportunity to get away from it all and start anew. You can kind of see I'm sorry for assuming, but I'm thinking if you're calling your uncle a savior, then it makes perfect sense, right? Here's my ticket out of this mess that I've found myself in.
Yeah, and he's become a mentor of mine. I would consider him one of my best friends today. He's 81 years old. He just celebrated his 81st birthday.
Oh,
he's still in my life.
Feel free to shout him out if you'd like
to. Uncle Jack, you're
Uncle
the man.
Jack.
Yeah, he's the man. But I believe he saved my life. Like, because he asked me, because he was the only family member that would visit me occasionally when I was in prison, right? Or would, call me when I was on the street and meet me for a cup of coffee. He was always willing to talk with me, but I wasn't coming back into their house, right? I mean, I had work to do, and until I was willing to do the work, he loved me. As I reconciled relationships with my family too, my parents and brothers and sisters, but they would love me from a distance because they knew I was, I think they were scared. They were scared of me. They were. I think I was hard to love because they would get close and hope for the best. And by the way, I do want to share because it's an important piece of my story.
Yeah.
Before I went to prison, I got married and had 2 sons. And so, I abandoned my family. Basically, my first wife divorced me while I was in prison. And then, of course, when I would get sober in prison, and I was diagnosed in prison with bipolar, PTSD, they put me on lithium, trazodone, Seroquel. I would be on all these different psychotropic drugs. And then I just missed my kids and just hated myself, the shame of what I was doing to these poor little boys, and I would write them letters and, then I'd find out, they never got the letters because whatever circumstances and, or sometimes they would get the letters and then I would get out, see them once and then relapse and then be back in jail. So the whole trust thing wasn't there. And it was... For me, the real heartbreak and heartache was what I was doing to my children. That was the pain and the and what I was doing to my parents and my family members. But 2 innocent little boys, they just wanted their dad.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm just trying to get myself in your timeline. Sure. Would you be 19? You went out to your uncle. You relapsed sort of 6 weeks later, I think you said there, and then you were in and out. Sorry, you were being arrested a fair few times
Yeah.
before you were caught with possession. So are we talking you're in your early 20s here? Are we talking 2021 when you got married? And
Yeah. I was 24.
okay.
So I was, and we had tried to do the geographic thing where we moved out of the city, the
Hmm.
Denver, and we moved
Hmm.
200 miles, really to the same community that I live in now, up by
Hmm.
Glenwood Springs, Colorado. And, because it was, again, like, oh, I just need to get out of the city, right? Like, let's get a fresh start. And sometimes that is helpful. Um,
Hmm.
but again, I wasn't doing the work, recovery work. I wanted what recovery had to offer. I just wasn't willing to do the work. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, that's when I started using. And then I got sent to prison. But when I got sent to prison, the first time my sons, well, see, I got arrested in '96, my first felony case. But they gave me county jail time, and then I got out and violated probation, and then they sent me to a halfway house. I took off from the halfway house. They put me back in jail. They gave me several chances before they sent me to prison because I
Okay.
was working as a carpenter. I did have two little kids. My wife wasn't working.
Hmm.
Um, I was totally in survival mode and an addict, and but I didn't do anything for my recovery.
Right.
I really wasn't willing to change. Um, and so they sent me to prison. In '98, I went to prison for the first time. So to fast
And for
forward,
sorry,
no,
just
go ahead, please.
just to ask. So
Yeah.
you're a guy. You've been arrested. So what would that have felt? I just wonder if there's a correlation between how you might have felt getting arrested for the first time and then going to prison for the first time. What was going through your mind?
Going to prison the
Could you
first
quite
time?
believe it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. If and I write about it. Uh, I'm sure we'll get to it, but in my book, uh, the opening chapter is the two female deputies that I got to know over a year
Hmm.
and a half in the Pitkin County Jail up in Aspen.
Hmm.
Them dropping me off, at the prison gates,
Hmm.
but I'll never forget when I actually pulled up to the prison that they sent me to and seeing the razor wire and the
Mm.
buildings and just thinking like the reality that they're gonna open those gates and then that's where I'm gonna have to live for the next couple of years, possibly 6 years. And
Mm.
and then also this was pretty profound moment for me. They give you a bedroll, like they give you a mattress that's rolled up and they put your
Right.
towels on it and your blankets and you come walking into this cell house. It's 3 tiers high, right? So, ground level, medium level, upper level, and there's 300 guys in this one cell house. And you come walking in with your bedroll, and they all come out to see who the new guy is. And
Mm.
this is just one cell house. In the prison I went to, the first one, there was 1,200 people in it. So
Wow.
this was one of 4 cell houses with 300 guys in it. And you
Mm.
come walking in, and people are going to test you, people are going to challenge you, and it was it was scary, just straight up. I mean, I
Mm.
thought I was a tough guy. I had a lot of experience on and off the streets. I experienced a lot of violence that I'm not proud of, but you know, living in there, knowing you're going to live in there, is a whole. It's a whole nother deal, man.
Mm.
But you learn to I was pretty street savvy. I knew how to survive on the streets, and
Okay.
uh, it was really no different. How do I say this? It was like the same people that were on the streets that we were just all now lived in this unit, and we'd
Hmm.
go to the yard together and we would eat together, and there's prison politics, and I adapted pretty quick.
Mm.
But I will say, prison's very segregated,
Hmm.
and very gang oriented, and I'm, well, one, I'm, Caucasian, but I have, a Jewish last name. And so the white gangs are primarily white supremacist type. And so they call it clicking up, where you come in and you click up with, either your race or different fractions, different gangs. And so I was, there was a handful of guys like me, not necessarily Jewish. It could be any race, but they called it like we ran solo. Like I wasn't part of any gang, and that's got its, you kind of have to demand respect and really learn how to politic, learn how to kind of be friends with everybody, and kind of know your boundaries. It was, I think I had a unique experience. Because a lot of guys go in and they click up. Sometimes you have family members and it's just a thing that you do. But I also see, and now working with the incarcerated population, especially the younger men, you click up because you're scared, and so you want to be part of something bigger than yourself. And they offer you protection, but it's not for free. Like they have expectations of you, and I've seen guys, go in with a 2-year sentence and get involved with the gang, and the gang asks them to go fight this guy or, go do this to that guy. And now they got a 20-year sentence for attempted murder, because they felt like they had to do it because they were scared if they didn't do it.
Yeah.
So it can be a very sad place, man.
So a whole system of fear is what I'm getting from you there.
Is that what you got? Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so for you guys to sort of run solo, to use your words there, you would have had to really build some foundations within yourself to stand strong in spite of whatever comes at you, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, so my first experience was, I got a job in the gym because I've always been a fitness guy. I've always, and that worked to my advantage. Well, let me add this too. So I'm a guy that when I went to prison, I didn't use drugs or alcohol. Because I was scared. The last thing I wanted to do was get high in there and not have my wits about me. I wanted to be on point and be. So part of my story is, down the road, being in and out 7 times, prison actually became like a sanctuary for me at times.
Wow.
Just because I was living so hard on the streets and killing myself on the streets that sometimes I looked forward to going back to prison because I'd get back in the Bible. That's where I got exposed to the New Testament and Christianity and trying to build this relationship with Jesus and learn who I am and who the Bible says I am, which has been a powerful experience for me. And I would eat properly. I would work out. I would read books, and it was when I got out where I just would fall apart again. And so going back to where this started, I got a job. My first gig was working in the gym in the prison. And so my workout partner was what they called like a shot caller, kind of like a gang leader for the Caucasians. He was a big biker guy, but we became friends, and he knew I was Jewish and so he knew I wouldn't really be accepted as part of their gang, and he knew I wasn't interested, but he was okay with me. So since he was okay with me, everybody else had to be okay with me.
Gotcha.
So he was my workout partner. So we trained together.
Right.
So working out, fitness became like an asset, right? And then later, for me, in my experience, when I started getting into the Bible and doing Bible study and that became...
Why the Bible? Why the Bible, Gabe? What, did you just come across it, or did someone
tell
you?
To bring it back a little bit, to save my first marriage, my first wife started going to church, and she was like, she left me so many times, and I had left her to go do drugs, and it was a very dysfunctional relationship, But I was but I love my kids, and I was trying to salvage my relationship. So I was like, yeah, I'll go to church, whatever it takes. So I went to church, and then I liked the whole, just to keep it real, because I didn't know who this Jesus guy was or who Jesus was, right? And just the fact, like, I started hearing things like you can be saved, and you could be forgiven, you can be delivered from shame, like all that appealed to me. I just had a hard time getting my head wrapped around, like, how do I can say I believe it, but do I really believe it? And that I became to understand that's what we call faith, right? And what is faith? What does that mean? So I dabbled a little bit. Like, I got baptized, in 1997, I got baptized by that church. But then I went to prison and relapsed. And then I was reading books on psychology. And so I read something, I think it was by Carl Jung, about, to go back to the gods of your father. And so I started embracing Judaism. And so I started to try to practice Orthodox Judaism once in prison. And I was praying and trying to learn Hebrew, and grew my beard out and was ordering kosher meals. And with all due respect to Orthodox Jews, it just wasn't for me. But what was interesting was, as I tried to study, or as I studied and learn about Judaism and Orthodox Judaism, which was new to me, it helped me understand. It made me want to go back and read the New Testament, because I didn't quite. It gave context of, like, who the Pharisees were and the Sadducees, and for those that don't know, I won't get into it, but, like, the religious leaders of the time and the traditions, and, like, if you weren't educated at the time and you couldn't know what all those laws were, how were you expected to follow those laws? And then you were ostracized from the temple, right? And so I could relate with being ostracized, but it was because I was an addict. But I started to see the appeal of this Messiah, and what, and so then I got more. It's interesting. I studied, because of studying Orthodox Judaism, it made me want to go back and learn more about Jesus. And so, and it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like, the sky opened and doves came down, and
Sure.
This took over a decade of in and out of prison, and trying different churches, having different conversations with chaplains and pastors, and reading all sorts of books. I mean, I read a lot. I love to read. I love to write. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you said you love to write. You've got a book, haven't you? I know you kind of mentioned it earlier on. What's your book? Tell us about your book.
If I may, a little shameless plug. So
No,
I wrote
it.
this book called The Peer Recovery Community Organization: How to Leverage Your Lived Experience and Create a New Legacy. I got out of prison from 98 to 2011. I was in and out of prison. And then in 2011, I was determined to try to reestablish a relationship with my sons. My oldest son was a senior in high school that year. And so I got out of prison. I was 40 years old. I was broke again. I was homeless again. But I was off parole for the first time in like a decade, which meant I could travel anywhere in the state, go live wherever I wanted, didn't have to answer to anybody. And so, I came up here to the mountains. I stayed at a hostel. I rented a little cot, and I went to duly diagnosed groups twice a week. I went to counseling. I went to church. I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, basically because there was only an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in our town. But I met some great people there that helped me save my life. But from 2011 to 2018, I never got a year of sobriety. Like I'd get 8 months, I'd relapse. I'd get 6 months, I'd relapse. I was still trying to figure it out. During that time, I met my current wife. We have the son together that we have. But I really felt the calling to be of service. But I also knew that I couldn't really serve others until I had my own stuff figured out. And so this book is really, it's really like my new lived experience. It touches on some of the stuff we talked about with me going to prison and whatnot to give it context of why I do the work I do today. But in 2018, I overdosed. I almost died. My kidney shut down. I was hospitalized for 6 days. And that's really where I hit my knees and prayed the prayer to God that, you know, if I walk out of here, God, if you see to it to have me walk out of here, I will serve you. And I'm all in. And all the things, all the excuses I've made to not follow through with recovery work, like I'll do I know the things that I haven't done, and I'm willing to do them because I don't want to die. I don't want to do this to another kid. I don't want to do this to another woman, another wife, and just I don't want to do this to myself. God delivered me from kidney failure. I had kidney failure when I overdosed, and I walked out of the hospital after 6 days. I started Kings and Priests ministry, started doing Bible study in the county jail with men. That opened up a second county jail to do Bible study, and I was doing like street ministry, just being there for the homeless people in our community. And then I started volunteering at the local parole department. Like, who better to help guys like us than guys like us, guys that have been to prison, guys that know the plight of getting out of prison with nothing. And really,
and can I ask, Gabe?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just with that. So you've made this deal with the Almighty, right? You're on your knees. Hey, man, look, get me through this, and I'm gonna really go for it now. Like earlier on in the conversation, you were talking about, you know, you knew what you had to do, but you weren't really like all in, sort of thing. Where here you're saying I'm all in, and now you're finding yourself going to jail to help people, not going to jail because you're incarcerated. Was that something that someone encouraged you to do? Was it something that was within yourself? Like, how did that happen? Why did you say, right, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to go and help these guys?
Yeah. You know, there's a scripture, and I haven't been to, you know, I'm not a Bible scholar, but there's scripture where, and I think it's in Matthew, you know, where Jesus says, when I was in prison, you came to visit me. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you clothed me. And the disciples say, well, when did we see you in prison? Or when did we see you naked? And he said, when you did it for the least of these, you were doing it for me. And so that really spoke to my heart. And I just felt like I saw so much brokenness while I was incarcerated. I know what brokenness is from my own experience. And I met a lot of men that were just going through it and what they put their families through. And I knew what I put my family through. And no, God worked on my heart. I believe it was God that inspired me to go back into the prisons. I did have the dream and the fantasy of, you know, I could be of service. If I could ever get on the other side of my addiction, I would love to come back in here and help. And so once I figured out, you know, and I'm still a work in progress, but once I figured out my stuff and got a handle on my recovery and my sobriety, I've been all in, you know, since 2018. And let me be transparent too, that my last relapse, I say I'm all in since 2020, and I was still learning about myself and recovery. My last relapse was February of 2020. And there were certain circumstances. I kind of tested myself. I really felt like I was I've done nightclub security. I ran nightclub security. I'm a martial artist too. That's kind of a piece of this that I've left out.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna ask you about that, but yeah, we'll
yeah,
get there.
I put myself in a nightclb for 3 nights up in Aspen, and there was a lot of cocaine, and I just thought I had it whooped and I would never do it again. And I was tired and I was hungry, and I just thought I can do a little. It's been a couple of years, and it was a terrible mistake, and I regretted it, um, yeah. So that I've been 100% off all substances uh, since 2020. Having said that, I had become a recovery coach. I had become a treatment provider for the parole department. I had my ministry going, during that relapse. And in the past, and this is to encourage other people too, because in the past, if I relapsed, I would just say, well, I can't do any of this. I'm not worthy. I failed. All that old shame.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like, okay, I'm not justifying it, but it happened. So what's the growth opportunity here? What just happened? And let's reverse engineer this. And now I'm able to help other people do that, right? Like, let's look at our last relapse and what led up to that, those decisions. And so, having said that, I opened up what we call a peer recovery community organization, using my past experiences in recovery to be of service and help others. We have what we call a recovery community center in our rural community. This kind of got birthed out of COVID. Everything was shut down. And I had guys that I was ministering to in the jails calling me, getting out of jail, saying their AA meeting is closed. The food bank is closed. There's nowhere to get a job.
Yeah.
There's no homeless shelter. So we started, I rented a building, and I'm like, I'm going to serve lunch. I'm going to have meetings. If the health department wants us to wear masks, or I have no money, no experience, but I had faith in the God that I was serving. And we got our first grant that year for $50,000. Big lesson I learned was I don't have to know how to do everything. I just have to tell my story, share my hopes and dreams of what I want to do here for the community, and see if I can get other people on board to help me do the things I don't know how to do. And so, in the book, I talk about, like, how did I start a nonprofit? I didn't know where to start. This is a book I wish somebody would have wrote for me 5 years ago. It's different lessons that I learned, right? Like, what do I need a board of directors for? Well, Gabe, you've been to prison 7 times. No one's going to give you a grant for $100,000 and just hope you do the right thing with it. You've got a past. So you need a board of directors, vetted people in the community that are going to oversee that money and oversee you and the work you do. So I got one of the parole officers to be on my board. I got a deputy from the sheriff's department. I got law enforcement to be on my board. Okay, I am a felon, but look, these are people that trust me and respect me in my community, and these are people I trust and respect. And so I put together a board. I got somebody from the hospital. I got local business owners, and then the grants just started rolling in, man. And we introduced our program into the Colorado Department of Corrections, the same prison system that I was in and out of. We've become the leading peer program in the Colorado prison system.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that the stakeholders are people from within the community. And respected members, from what you're saying there. If it's from law enforcement, from the hospitals and things like that, they're like people who have a vested interest in these guys coming out and being able to rebuild their lives. Like, what a beautiful thing,
Yeah. And it's that's the other thing, that I talk about in here. What a gift. It's so empowering now to leverage my lived experience to create this new legacy, to be of service in the same community where I caused a lot of damage, and to be trusted by the different stakeholders in our law enforcement. I mean, I just got a letter of support from a judge. I got one from the prison system, for a different grant that we're applying for. So it gives meaning to the wreckage of my past, And so
Yeah.
I have a relationship now with my two older sons. I've got 6 grandchildren from
Wow.
them. What a blessing to have little grandkids, and then me and my wife, we have a 12-year-old at home, and yeah, my life's the life that I have today is a gift, and I have gratitude every day when I wake up and my feet hit the floor, because I know a lot of people that aren't here anymore because they've been through similar things,
Yeah,
or they're
sure.
in prison and they're not getting out.
Yeah, I hear that. I have to say, like without being blasphemous here, we often say, God gave me this and God gave me that. And whilst I'm not against that, I'm also saying that we are co-authors of our lives.
Yeah.
And so a lot of, as an outsider hearing your story, and to encourage you, like a lot of where you are at in your life is because you were able to step in to the places that you didn't want to step into for a
Yeah.
long time. So there's a whole bunch of credit there for you to go, right, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to build this organization, but I do have a heart to help people because I've seen what it looks like, and I've tasted what it tastes like, and it is not good. And so either I can climb out from being drowned underwater, or sinking underwater, I should say, and you get onto the shore, or I can go, right, I've come out here, but now I'm going to build some little boats, and I'm going to go back out there and go and help some other people. And I think, man, credit to you, man. Like, that's what an inspiration to like look within and say, I'm going to do something. And whether you're driven by redemption for your soul, whether you're driven by a deal you made with the Almighty, or whether you're driven by, I think you use something along the words of meaning, or finding purpose from the stuff that you've been through in your past. Whatever you're driven by, the actions that you take has have just so much courage, man. Like, I know a whole bunch of people that wouldn't be able to make it the distance. So I'm just encouraging you there, brother. Like, well, that's incredible.
Thank you. It's very heartfelt and humbling. It's kind. Thank you, Ricks. Yeah, as you were talking, I just in my head, I just saw like the theme of courage, right? And not to put myself on a pedestal, and I do understand, like I am a faith-based guy. I've become a chaplain in the prison. I'm a volunteer chaplain. I have an office in a prison here. Yeah, it's a trip, man. I get keys, I get a radio, my name's on the door. It's a trip. But I was looking at your podcast and some of the questions, right? And you talk about courage and that theme. And for me, it's what was resonating for me is, I grew up very scared and insecure. There was a lot of fear. And of course, that carried into my adulthood and having to portray, I felt I needed to be this image, a certain kind of guy. And really, it just had to do with me being insecure and scared. And I felt on the exterior, I needed to look a certain way and act a certain way because I really felt insignificant. And when you talk about courage, for me, it's recognizing, being humble enough, because we all get scared. We all have fears. And for me, being humble enough to recognize your fear, acknowledge it. But the courage comes when you're willing to work through it. When you're saying, okay, I am scared, and this is scary, and there's fear here. But what systems do I need to create, or what tools can I use, or people that I can connect with to ask for help, so that I don't let this fear stop me, that there's not this barrier. And to me, that's where courage lies.
And it's hard, right? It's hard to ask for help. It's really hard. Especially, I do a lot of work in the men's mental health space, and it's this imposter syndrome, this feeling of manning up and taking on the hard challenges, etc., that stop us from going, hey man, I'm really struggling, and also when you do step out and ask for help, a whole bunch of times you're not going to get the help either. So then there's the fear of rejection, or if it happens to you one time, you're like, I'm never going to ask anyone for help again. And it's almost like, you've referenced the Bible there, so if you don't mind me using a little bit of analogy, it's like a tactic from the enemy, to isolate you from community so that you are going to be in a corner somewhere struggling on your own, when the answers lie in community, which is something that I really love about what you're doing there in terms of your peer recovery, is that you're working, I mean, it's in the name, right? You're working with peers, and you're building a community of people around each other who may not necessarily be experts in their field, but have lived experience and are able to help each other, go that little step further, which is a beautiful thing.
And that's so well said. And we connect, if somebody, look, I never claim to be a doctor or a therapist.
Sure.
I'm not, I'm just another guy in recovery with a lived experience. But if somebody needs a therapist, right? Like we have those, I also look at us as a reservoir. I like the term, a reservoir of resources. So if you need a therapist, we know who to refer you to, or if you need housing, there's or senior housing. We've helped seniors that were homeless, that were getting out of the hospital, like find housing, or somebody needs to go to treatment and they don't have insurance. We have the connections of who has scholarships to help them get in to treatment. But, to your point, the asking for help, the coming to terms with like surrendering our will and just saying, I can't do this on my own anymore, and I need help, and that's really hard, especially in our society for I think for both men and women, but definitely, and I only have my experience as a man, but for men, it's challenging. But I always like to share that there's great power and strength in that humility. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength to be humble and say, I need help. I can't do this. I don't want to die. And like to your point too, I've tried often to get help, and this therapist, it didn't work out. This treatment center, it didn't work out. I mean, there was a point in my 30s where I just gave up. I didn't, I don't know if it's I just didn't have the guts to kill myself, or I had hope. I mean, thank God I had faith, maybe, that I didn't know how, but maybe one day I could learn how to pull out of this. But I was tired of trying. I just accepted, I'm going to overdose here on the streets and die. Someone's going to kill me on the streets, or I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison. I kind of figured that was my fate. And thank God it wasn't. But I know that plight. I know that feeling of despair,
And please correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were talking about some of the timeline of events there, that kidney failure was a make or break moment for you. So sometimes, like when people ask me, hey man, if there is a God, why is there suffering in the world, etc., the age-old question. But for you, at least in that, again, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm an outsider just listening to what you're sharing, if you didn't get to that all-time low, then maybe you would have gone in a different direction. But because it was like, this is it now, make or break, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I was at stage 4 kidney failure. Stage 5 is transplant, death, dialysis till you die. Like I was right there. And, I was going to lose my wife. Again, she was ready to leave. She just couldn't believe I did this again to myself. She was trying to protect our son too. I almost, look at it like God sent me to prison several times. And there was one year, I left this out, but because of the different charges that I had, I mean, there was one year where I was looking at like 32 years in prison. Like I thought I was done. Like that was a stressful 6 months, like waiting to see if I would get any charges dropped and before I went to court. And, but it was like, God was, in my opinion, was like, what more do I need to do? Like, basically I faced death and the possibility of not walking out of the hospital. And I needed that. I really needed that. I shared, I still relapsed. Like I got complacent, man. I got complacent. But there's lessons in there and there's growth opportunity. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't change a thing other than the hurt that I've caused other people. But, it takes what it takes, man. And I had to go through what I went through to get to where I am today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as well, I love the transparency to say, look, man, I made this deal. I'm not going to go down this road. Oh, you know what? I did.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to tell a single soul if you didn't want to, right? But then we I guess as we mature with age, we understand that secrets and these things that you keep out of the light actually fuel the darkness within anyway. So if you have this deal with the Almighty, this divine creature who supposedly can tap into your heart, your mind, your soul, whatever you want to, people have different religious beliefs, whatever, but like, then you can't hide from that. So actually, the more that you do hide, you're just going to feed insecurity and mistrust within yourself. So, again, I think it shows a lot of courage and a lot of wisdom to be able to say, right, I messed up here. Let's get back on our feet. I'm not going to let it define me. I'm not going to let it label me. And I'm not going to stand here while other people are pointing fingers and saying, hey, we knew this was going to happen. I'm not saying people did, but like, this is going to happen. You've got to go, right, the buck stops with me. I've got to get up again and I've got to keep moving forward, And I love that rebirth spirit that keeps happening over and over again.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thanks for affirming that. It's important. So I thank you for that gift. And if I may,
please,
what it inspired me, and it's biblical, but this the story of and for those that don't know, but the Apostle Peter, right? Like he was Jesus told him, you're going to deny me 3 times. And he said, no, I'll never, I got you, man. I'm not going to deny you. Right. I got you. That'll never happen. And I just, for me, there's characters in the Bible that I can relate with. Right. And he did deny Jesus 3 times, but then look, I don't know the time period, But in the book of Acts, the next book after Jesus, death and resurrection, he used Peter despite denying Jesus. And that's how I felt like when I relapsed, like I was denying him. I was denying the work that he did for me, but he still used Peter and he could still use me. Right. And so, and I think it's important, and we don't have to get biblical. I don't have to share the biblical parts, because I know religion can shut some people down, but I do share the fact that, I overdosed in 2018, and that's really when I got into recovery, and I was all in, I thought, but I relapsed. The last time I used was in 2020, and I think it's important to be transparent and share that because there's a lot of people that when they relapse, they have that shame and that guilt, and then they just throw in the towel. And I'm here to say, like, it's not over till it's over, and you have a choice, right?
Yeah, and may I add, if someone is comparing themselves to you, they're going, "Look at Gabe, man. Gabe did it. There's hope for me." And so they go on this path, this journey with you, and then they relapse, and they're like, "Nah, Gabe, I can't be like Gabe. Like I relapsed, I'm out." That's if you didn't choose to share that you did, right?
Right.
So now they're comparing themselves to something that's not even true. So you become part of the problem. Whereas if you're authentic about it, then they're going, you know what? If Gabe can get up again, maybe I can get up again as well. That kind of thing. So it all kind of feeds into that courage piece. Yeah. May I also, just touching on that story of Peter, what's really interesting, and I wonder if you've come across this before, I'm making links here. So Peter denies Jesus 3 times, right? Judas betrays Jesus, right? Who's to say which of those two are more sinful in what they did, right? But what I found really interesting, at least during my study time, way back when, is that it's how they handled the guilt and the shame afterwards, right?
Right.
So Judas realizes, oh man, I really messed up. I'm going to try and return this money, and I'm going to try and, redeem myself. And it's not happening, right? And then Peter, his interesting approach is he reconnects with the community, whereas Judas doesn't. He isolates himself from the community. So it'd be really interesting to see if he did go back to the community, whether they would have embraced him and said, hey man, you messed up, but you're still our brother, let's go. But he took himself out. I can relate to that mindset of like, I'm not good enough to be with these guys. I really messed up. I deserve punishment. And so we all know what happens to Judas. And then to your point there about Peter, how he becomes like a really big part of the story going forward.
Right.
And so it's really interesting that the community piece there may be the defining thing, and where you find yourself now is in community support peer groups.
That's a real interesting point. I never thought of the community piece, so thanks for sharing that. And I do think it's important, if I may, because I don't know that everybody knows what happens to Judas, but he did isolate, right? And he didn't get in community, and he killed himself, right? And so, I think that speaks to isolation. And if we do want to go on the spiritual tip here too, like that's a tactic of the enemy. Like let's isolate this person. Let's just let them be in shame and guilt, and unfortunately, it does lead to some people attempting or succeeding in taking their own lives. And there's help out there. This is really just a message. Whether you're an atheist or a Christian or a Buddhist or Muslim, there's community out there. There's people that want to help you, and you're worth it. You're valuable. You're important.
Yeah.
So don't give up.
Yeah.
Change is possible, and that's really a hope I have, for this book, and just to share my story and how we could turn these ashes, if you will, into something beautiful. So. Thanks for this opportunity, man.
No worries. So good. So good to speak to you, and thank you for being so open about your life and just sharing, some of the difficulties. I find it hard to imagine a lot of, what you've been through. So, to get some insight from you is like really, really, it's a gift. It's a gift to me. It's a gift to hopefully people who are watching today as well. So I appreciate that.
You.
Gabe, can I ask you if, two things actually. One of them is around just if someone's listening today and they don't have hope, whatever they're struggling with, it might be substance abuse, it might be relapsing with addiction, it could be any number of things. What would you say has been important for you, and what would you like to pass on to someone who's listening today? In terms of your mindset, of course, moving forward.
It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be depressed. But let's be aware that it can be a very dangerous place to stay, and that that you have worth, that your story's valuable, that you're valuable, and there's so much help out there. Listen, there's unfortunately, because there's so much, sometimes we have to explore different avenues to try to find what's going to work for us. And I think we talked about it earlier, like that can be discouraging when we're not getting our needs met, or we feel like nobody understands us. I understand that. And I guess I said all that to say, don't give up. Don't give up. Change is possible. And, live to see another day, because you don't know what the new dawn that arises is going to bring. Don't isolate. Just put yourself out there. There's great strength in being in humility, and I know it can be scary, but in those deep, dark places within us, we can actually find the greatest light if we're willing to go there and unpack it. And you don't have to do it alone, right? You can do it with other people that are trained in this, professionals. So ask for help.
Yeah, totally agree, and very well put.
Thanks.
On that note, if people are living close by to where you're at, how could they get hold of you? What's the best way of getting in touch with you if they had follow-up questions and things like that?
Yeah, sure. If you Google discoverycafe.org, that's the actual name of our peer recovery support model in our community. Discovery Cafe, we call it a sanctuary of new beginnings, but discoverycafe.org. My personal business website that promotes Discovery Cafe and this book is gabecohen.me, which is pretty easy, gabecohen.me. That's my website. But it just talks about the work that we've done. We've done program development for the largest prison, peer development for the largest prison in Colorado, for a legislative bill here. I have 2 sober living homes for justice-involved men as well in our community. So if anybody wants ideas or wants to consult with me on how to start something, whether it's a peer recovery community, program development, sober living, just please reach out, gabecohen.me. You can find it. And then, of course, my book is available on Amazon. You can go on Amazon. Okay. Ricks, I'd love to mail you a copy. So if you want to send me a good mailing address, I got you, a gift from me to you. I would love to share it with you. And just let me know if I could ever be of service to you in any way, or you want to pick my brain or bounce something off of me, hit me up, man.
Well, you've said it now on a recording, so you'll have to follow it up now if I'm knocking on your door again saying, "Hey man, I got some questions."
I got you. No worries.
Thanks for the gift. I could reach over and grab a copy of my journal over there, but I'll send you a copy of my journal as well. So, authored a journal called. Oh, hang on, sorry, you're about to say something.
No, I want to say that I saw your advertisement for the Courage Journal. I believe I want you to finish your own plug, but I did order a copy because amazing. I'm gonna give it to my wife as a gift. She doesn't know yet that it's coming.
Okay,
but I ordered one the other day. So if you want to share and talk about that.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say it's a 31-day prompted guided journal to help you build courage in your life. Nice. It doesn't have to be used over 31 days. It can be used in any way that people want to use it. But the idea is to build courage. There's sort of 4 aspects that you go through on a daily basis. One of them is to reflect. One of them is an inspiration piece, nice. And then there's a little study piece if people want to study a little bit nerdy about the inspiring quote. And then there's encouragements for ourselves as well, because I think we touched on it a little bit, but to be able to encourage yourself is really important. We can do it for others, but actually, can we do it for ourselves? So that's all kind of geared around that. But yeah, I'm so glad you got a copy. I'm going to send you another one anyway, and you might be able to bless someone else with it. So all good.
Sounds
all
good. Well, I'll look at it. My motivation on ordering one was to order something nice that could be encouraging for my wife, but I'll put it to good use if you mail me one for sure.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'll put all of the links that you talked about in the podcast today. If you're watching or listening to this on YouTube, guys, just have a look at the description. If you're listening on other platforms, just switch over to YouTube for just a second and grab those links from there as well. I had to ask you early on. I asked it as a bit of a cheeky question, Gabe, but I'm going to ask you now at the end. Have you subscribed to the Go Encourage podcast on YouTube yet?
I have.
Yay.
I'll keep it real. I did it yesterday after I read that you were going to ask me if I've subscribed. I do take those long drives that we talked about, and now that I've subscribed, I will be listening to some of your podcasts. on my road trips for sure.
Yeah, excellent. And sorry, I wasn't trying to twist your arm to
No, it's okay.
to get subscribed. It's a bit of a cheeky question, but yeah. And like you said, when you first reached out to me, there's a whole bunch of varied people, and similar to what we're talking about, people's lived experiences is a beautiful thing, because we often switch on the news or we switch on something and all we're being fed is like this bad thing is happening every second of every day in every country that you can imagine. And it's interesting because there's a whole bunch of good stuff that happens in life. There's a whole bunch of people who are turning their lives around, whether that be fear of dentists or, coming off using a substance, we've talked about today. So yeah, it's my encouragement to people, let's get more conversations around hope and around courage and around building our lives in a direction that we want to go in. So yeah, that's all part of the piece.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love what you're doing. Thank you. Thanks for doing what you're doing. I appreciate it, and I will do my part to, to spread your links, and I'll put it on my social media stuff too. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Peer Recovery Expert on Instagram, and then on Facebook as well, and my personal page. So, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, through the magic of editing, that would have popped up on the screen right now when you said that. So I'll make sure people can reach out to you. Gabe, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much. I'm just humbled by you being so open and transparent about your life. So thank you for coming on today.
Oh, thank you, man. It's very heartfelt. A pleasure.
Excellent. All right. So if you're listening to this, you're watching online, we just want to encourage you. We want to say whatever you're facing, whatever is in front of you, just keep moving forward and go encourage. See you on the next one. Hey, really hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope there was something there that you can take away and reflect on. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can do so publicly on YouTube via the comments, or if you prefer to be more private, you can DM me on Instagram, and the handle is @goencourage. You can also find links to everywhere that I'm on the website, which is www.goencourage.com, where you can find a copy of the Courage Journal. You can find links to Instagram, TikTok, all the places, and you can have a look at the Go Encourage blog, which is in development at the moment as well. All right, whatever you're doing, whatever you're facing, my encouragement to you is to keep moving forward and to go encourage. I'll see you on the next episode.